It's September 26th, 2024, right here on Spin Lobby. And today, we've got so many things going on. We're going to start with New York. Eric Adams and the mystical art of dodging corruption. A satirical masterclass. Once upon a time, in the land of New York City, where pizza slices are worshipped and subway rats reign supreme, they emerged a charismatic leader named Eric Adams, with his sharp suits and even sharper sound bites. Mayor Adams was poised to bring new era of law and order to Gotham's unruly streets, or at least that's what he promised. But as with all tales of political glory, the shadows of corruption began to creep ever closer to his doorstep. And thus begins the saga of how Adams turned dodging corruption accusations into an art form worthy of its own Netflix docuseries. The Rise of the Kale King. From the start, Adams made it clear this wasn't your typical politician. No, sir. He wasn't just a former cop turned mayor. He was a wellness warrior, a meditation master, a kale loving health guru determined to cleanse the city's arteries with green juice and street sweeps. Who better to run the Big Apple than a man who literally thinks apples are the cure for crime? But for all his talk about detoxing New York, there was a different kind of cleansing that Adams seemed less enthusiastic about. One involving transparency and, well, potential corruption. Where does it really live? That mystery, remember? It started innocently enough, with reporters simply wanting to know where Mayor Adams actually lived. Was it his modest Brooklyn apartment, as he claimed, or was it across the Hudson River where rumors swirled of a secret New Jersey love nest? When confronted with the controversy, Adams responded as only he could by inviting the media to tour his Brooklyn pad. It was a strange affair, like a poorly staged episode of MTV Cribs. The apartment was sparse, with the kind of lived-in feel one might expect from someone who occasionally pops in to water the plants. If there had been any plants to water, that is. Nevertheless, Adams insisted he was a proud Brooklynite, despite the complete lack of evidence suggesting he'd ever actually slept there. Transparency, he declared, as he pointed to a photo that looked suspiciously unslept in. This is where I totally live, he said. This is where I totally live. But transparency only goes so far when the shadows of corruption are looming over your kale smoothie. Friends in high places and questionable contracts. As Adams began his mayoral duties, whispers of interesting relationships began to echo through the halls of City Hall. Who were these shadowy figures with connections to lucrative city contracts, and why were they, so many? Why were there so many of his long-term friends and political donors among them? When asked about the suspicious timing of contracts awarded to friends of Eric Adams, he had a brilliant response. It's not corruption if you meditate on it first. He even floated the idea of a corruption-free zone where all business deals would be conducted while doing yoga. Name set and pay to play, he joked, while posing for a selfie with yet another well-connected developer. The money trail of dreams. Then came the peace, but no one could resist. The PS de resistance, a mysterious money trail leading back to Adams' campaign fund. Investigators started poking around, wondering how so much cash from real estate developers, nightlife impresarios, and fitness influencers ended up in the mayor's pocket. Adams, ever the innovative leader, had a simple explanation. Look, he said, This is just the universe rewarding me for my good vibes. Money is energy, and I'm clearly manifesting success. He then pulled out a crystal from his pocket and held it into the sky as if to demonstrate his cosmic connection to financial abundance. The media, unsurprisingly, was not convinced, but Adams had another trick up his sleeve. If I'm corrupt, he declared, then why do I feel so spiritually pure? You can't bribe someone who's on a journey of self enlightenment, Adams said. Mm-mm. The inquiry that meditated itself away. As the corruption accusations piled up, there was talk of an official inquiry. Would the mayor finally be held accountable for these dubious dealings? Would the Kamar police come knocking on Gracie Mansion's door? Adams, of course, had no fear. He simply invited the inquiry committee to join him for a guided meditation session. Before we begin, I want you to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and visualize a world where everything I've done is completely above board. He intoned in his smoothest voice. Incredibly, the inquiry seemed to stall. Whether it was Adams' hypnotic charisma or simply New York's exhaustion with scandal, no one could say, but somehow, like a slippery politician in an overpriced juice bar, Adams wriggled free from the jaws of scrutiny. That is the art of the dodge. And so, Eric Adams remains the Kale King of New York, expertly dodging corruption accusations with the grace of a yogi balancing on one leg. He continues to preach wellness while sidestepping ethics, and somehow, through all the smoke and mirrors, remains mayor of the city that never sleeps. Probably because they're too busy trying to keep up with his next scandal. In the end, Adams has proven one thing. It's not easy to be a politician in New York, but with the right mix of charisma, smoothies, and selective transparency, you can certainly try. And as long as there's no law against kale-fueled delusions of grandeur, he might just be able to dodge corruption forever.